about your love affair. Here's one I'd like to tell to you. All night long they sit up on the stairs. He holds her close and starts to coo. My little Margie, I'm always thinking of you, Margie. I'll tell the world I love you. Don't forget your promise to me. 'Cause I have bought the home and ring and everything for Margie. You've been my inspiration. Days are never blue. After all is said and done, really there is only one. Oh, Margie, Margie, it's you. Oh, my little Margie, I'd even cut out liquor. Do you know, Margie? Do you know that one kiss and I get shicker? You are like a little doctor to me. Why, when I'm nervous, you just put me back in service.
In 1921, the Band-Aid was invented by Earl Dixon. On February 3rd, 1921, there was a rabbit hunt. From 800 to 1,200 farmers killed 24 coyotes and from 1,000 to 5,000 rabbits. It started 14 miles southwest of Grant and lasted from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The farmers formed a circle and walked toward the center. When they got close to each other, they would let the rabbits run outside of the circle and shot them as they ran away. Sylvester evidently borrowed $1,000 from John B. O'Neill on March 1, 1921. He may have used his land at Southeast and Southeast Quarter 14740 as collateral because of this letter regarding an abstract or escrow on that land. Here is a receipt for taxes paid for land at Southeast Southeast 1/4 14740 in Chase County. Here is a picture of some school children in Hay Springs, Nebraska in 1921 approximately. On the back was written these names, top, middle, and bottom. Top: Melvin Tubbs, Tony Kuchara, Edith Kuchara, Dale Kuchara, Verl Dunagan, Mona Eitler. Middle: Rachel Hawthorne, Lavange King, Pearl Kuchara, Naomi Tubbs, Minnie Kuchara, Opal King, Blanche Hawthorne. Bottom: Kenneth King, Harry Kuchara, Robert Kuchara, Kermit Kirchberger, Floyd Mendenhall, Richard Blackledge, Robert Hawthorne, Regina Blackledge, Alice Mendenhall, Alma Eitler, Janelle Kuchara, Wilma Eitler, Rosella Kirchberger, and Madge King. Here is a picture of two children on a horse. On the back was written, Iola Myril Myers, taken in front of their house. This is a picture of some people near the parsonage in Hay Springs. The parsonage can be seen in the background. This is the parsonage that Sylvester helped to build. A better picture of this building will be seen later in these pictures. In 1922, insulin was invented. Here is a picture of Ruth and Chancey Pettit in 1922. Sylvester had a younger brother named William Thomas Dunagan. This William had a daughter named Elva Edith Dunagan, and she married Thomas H. Pettit. This couple had children, Hazel Elena Pettit, Thelma Irene Pettit, Beulah May Pettit, Arlie D. Pettit, Chancey Thomas Pettit, and Ruth V. Pettit. This picture is of Ruth and Chancey. In May of 1922, Sylvester paid tax on land at 14740 in Chase County, Nebraska. Here is a picture of some young people in the Hay Springs area in 1922. The names written on the back are Ernest Hawthorne, Josephine Elwood, Mabel Hawthorne, Ernest Coleman, Verl Dunagan, Clyde Hawthorne, Donald Bertan, Rochelle Hawthorne, Blanche Hawthorne, Norma Burton, Robert Hawthorne, Howard Hawthorne, Rachel Coleman, and Roy Dunagan. The date of this picture was estimated by the date of Roy Dunagan's wedding. Roy married Josephine Elwood. Here is a picture of Hazel Elena and Thelma Irene Pettit at their graduation from the 8th grade. Hazel was about the same age as Leila Verl Dunagan, and Thelma 1 year younger. This family was probably in Indiana. A picture of Roy Dunagan, perhaps at church in Hay Springs. Here is a picture of Roy Dunagan and Bob Lemrick. It looks like they are talking things over, probably on a Sunday, since they have white shirts and ties on. Here is a picture of Sadie Kuchara in Hay Springs in about 1922. Sadie was born in 1904, and she would be 18 years old in 1922. This is a picture of some young women, probably at a friend's church camp meeting in Gordon, Nebraska. The building on the left behind the women was in Gordon and was used for meetings for the church. I was told by Joyce Lembrick Elkhorn, who lives in Hay Springs, in 2016, that the yearly schedule for people included camp meetings at Gordon once a year and the Nebraska yearly meeting of Friends in Central City once a year. There was a railroad that went from Hay Springs to Central City, so the transportation was easy. You can see a green line on this map which represents the route of BNSF Railway, going from the upper left, northwest, down to the right, where it intersects with a red line. In this area was Central City, Nebraska. Gordon was not far from Hay Springs. It was east of Hay Springs, about 27 miles. On November 29, 1922, Sylvester paid personal property tax in Sheridan County, which is where Hay Springs is located. To start out the year 1923 right, Roy Van Dunagan married Josephine Noreen Elwood on January 11th in Sutton, Nebraska. Sutton is not far from Central City and the home of Josephine's parents. Here is a picture of Josephine's parents, Wesley Vimy and Emmer Augusta Elwood, around this time. The writing on the back of this picture said, "Mrs. Elwood gave me this to send to you. It was taken right after she was sick." In 1923, traffic signals were invented by Garrett Morgan. Here is a picture of Annie, Fern Prentice, and Leela Verl Dunagan sitting on a rock in 1923. This was probably taken north of Hay Springs, as the terrain gets a little rocky in that direction. Fern Prentice is the daughter of Sylvester's brother, Samuel Dunagan. She married Harold Prentice not long before this picture was taken. Here is another picture of Harold and Fern Prentice. On the back of this picture is written, Elva and Danny O'Neill, Earl and Ruth McCullough, daughter and daughters, Sylvester, Harold, and Fern Prentice, Betty, Ruth, and Robert. Another picture with Fern Prentice. In this picture there is Leela Verl, Fern Prentice, and Annie Dunagan. On May 1st of 1923, Sylvester paid taxes on land at Southeast Quarter, 14740 in Chase County. There were no tax receipts for personal property in Sheridan County, where Hay Springs is located. However, Sylvester had in his files several documents, tax receipts, and deeds for property in Noblesville, Westfield Town, Indiana. These documents did not involve Sylvester, so I suspect that he had them to prove that the title for this land was clear of any liens. Later, Sylvester would buy that land. Here is a picture of some pastors. The picture says Reverend Eddie McDaniels and Reverend Johnson. E.G. McDaniels was listed as a pastor of the Greenfield Church in 1912. Here is a picture of George Goodwin, Esther McDaniels, Sumner Williams, and Garrett Hegerman in 1923. This may have been in Gordon, where the camp meetings were held, but it was not written on the picture. Here is a picture of Leela Verl and some friends. This is a picture of Annie sitting in front of their house, the parsonage, in Hay Springs, Nebraska, in 1923. This is the house that Sylvester helped to build, and which was still being used in 2016. Here is a picture of the dining room at the camp meeting in Gordon, Nebraska. Here is a picture of Daisy Williams and Mildred Woodward. Mildred was the daughter of Frank Woodward, who was a pastor of the Greenfield Church in 1908 and the clerk of the county and district of Dundee. Here is another similar picture. Another picture of Mildred Woodward. On the back it says, "The baby, ha ha." Maybe Mildred was kind of contemplative and maybe thought highly of herself. That is a guess. And another picture of Mildred Woodward. In 1923, the Friends Church at Hay Springs bought a tent to use for revival meetings. Here is a picture of that tent and some people around it. Another picture of the tent. On the back it says, Mama, Mrs. Kettle, Mr. Kettle, Papa, Mrs. Weibel. Of course, Mama is Annie and Papa is Sylvester. Mr. Kettle was a pastor in the Friends Church. Another picture of the tent with Mr. and Mrs. Kettle in a car. Here is a picture of some visiting pastors to Hay Springs. They are standing in front of the parsonage. A picture, perhaps, of Josephine Elwood, who became Josephine Dunagan on January 11th of 1923. Here is Sylvester Dunagan in Indiana at a time when his sister-in-law, Sarah Elizabeth Wheeler Dunagan, wife of Sylvester's younger brother William Dunagan, died. She died May 6, 1923. Here is a picture taken in Indiana of some Dunagans. There is Sylvester, Aunt Lizzie, Uncle Gran, Uncle Will. The name Aunt Lizzie is probably incorrect and is really Sarah Elizabeth Wheeler Dunagan, who died in 1923. Uncle Gran is the husband of Sylvester's oldest sister, Sarah Maria Ryer Dunagan. His full name is Granville C. Costin. Then Uncle Will is Sylvester's younger brother, William. Here is a picture of Uncle Gran and Aunt Maria. They are the Maria and Granville mentioned earlier. This was probably taken in Indiana during this time of mourning the death of Sarah Elizabeth Wheeler Dunagan. On June 23rd, Sylvester took a loan from the bank for $150. Here is a picture of a 4th of July parade in Gordon, Nebraska, the town where the Friends Camp meetings were held. The year is not given, so I am assuming 1923. Here is a picture of Eddie McDaniels in the city center of Central City. Eddie McDaniels is a pastor in the Friends Church. This canon was in the city center for many years, but in the 1940s it was given to the U.S. military to use its metal for war-making purposes. Central City was where the Nebraska yearly meeting of Friends was held in June of each year. This is a picture of Reverend Eddie McDaniels and Reverend O.G. Mengladorf. This was probably in Central City. Here is a picture of Roy Van Dunagan and Red Evans. I don't know who Red Evans was, but I suspect a friend. Here is a picture of Sylvester and Annie visiting some friends. A picture at camp meeting in Gordon, Nebraska, with George Goodwin and Sumner Williams. This is a picture in Central City. People are Margaret, Raymond, and Opal Tilton. Some men in Central City, Nebraska. They are Roy Dunagan, Bob Lembrick, and Everett Watkins. This was winter. Here is Ruby Hegerman and Esther McDaniels, maybe the daughter of Eddie McDaniels. A picture of the Dunagan brothers, Samuel, Sylvester, and William, probably at the time that Sarah Maria Wheeler died in Indiana. Here is the Sylvester Dunagan family in front of their home, the parsonage in Hay Springs. Roy, Leela Furl, Sylvester, and Annie. Here is another picture of Sylvester, probably in Indiana during the time that his sister-in-law died. Another picture of the Dunagan brothers and sister, Sylvester, Maria Dunagan Costin, and William Dunagan. This was in Indiana when Sylvester went there for the memorial of Sarah Elizabeth Wheeler. More Dunagan family. Do these men look like gunslingers or sheriffs? The men are Sylvester, Samuel, and William Dunagan. This was most likely in Indiana. Here are some young people at the camp meeting in Gordon. Names on the back are 3. Viva Johosen, 4. Mrs. Halgrimson, 5. Marie Martz, 6. Muriel Fry, 7. Doris Moeller, 9. Anna Williams, 10. Georgie Timblin, 11. Verl Dunagan, 12. Edith Miller, 13. Irma Dyson, 14. Edith Dyson, 15. Mildred Martz, 16. Lois Dyson, 17. Ruth Gideon, 18. Ruth Richardson, 19. Harriet, 20. James, 22. Sumner Williams, 23. Leon Foster, and 25. Arthur. Here are some more young people at the camp meeting in Gordon. The names were not given. Do those clothes look like the 1920s flapper design? More young people at Gordon camp meeting. The names are George Goodwin, Ruby Hagerman, Elaine Fisher, Esther McDaniels, Truth Richardson, Mildred Martz, Sumner Williams, and Marie Martz. On October 26, 1923, Gerald Ivan Dunagan was born to Roy Van and Josephine Noreen Dunagan. Whoopee! In March of 1924, Sylvester repurchased the land at 23,941 by reason of a default of payment by purchasers. Sylvester got a judgment against the owners from the court. On January 3rd, he paid back taxes of $225.98, and on March 4th, he purchased the land for $6,881.86, most of which was already owed to him from his previous sale. He got a sheriff's deed on March 4th, 1924. This was the place that they considered home. Here is a picture of some women at some unknown place around February 1924. On April 28, 1924, Sylvester also paid taxes on land at 14740 in Chase County. Here is a picture of Sylvester sitting in front of the parsonage in Hay Springs with a child on his knee. Maybe this child was Gerald, although his name was not given. Here is a letter to Sylvester from his younger brother William regarding a lease for the land at 23,941. A person named Borrow was mentioned in the judgment against owners for Sylvester's repurchase of this land. Evidently, Borrow leased the land back from Sylvester. Quote, Venango, Nebraska, May 9th, 1924. Rev. S.S. Dunagan, Hay Springs, Nebraska. Dear Brother, I am sending you the lease written I had made out yesterday and went out and got Borrow to sign it. I gave him a copy, and this is the original. I got tired of waiting on Beveridge. He promised me 4 times that he would draw the lease and send it to the bank here, and I could sign it there, and he could get Borrow to sign it, but he never came through with it. I don't know why he was so slow about it, but I suppose he had an object in it, but I don't intend to bother him any more, as I have made a number of trips up to see him, and it hasn't done much good. He always seems to be willing to do as I have asked him, but never does it. But we have got the matter fixed up now all right. I think I took Elmer out with me yesterday to witness Borrow's signature, and Novak, the banker, witnessed mine. I hope this will meet with your approval. It is trying to snow here this morning and has been very windy and cold for the last 2 weeks or more, and real cold this morning, and I have to go to Grant. Alma Hopkins Bustle and her man and baby have been down sick for a long time. They have been in Holyoke in the hospital most of that time since the last winter. They are home now, but the last I heard, they were still quite bad off with inflammatory rheumatism. They have all three had their tonsils removed a few days ago, and I haven't heard from them since. Everybody else is well as far as I know. Goodbye, Will." End quote. Here is a picture of Annie beside a horse in Hay Springs, and Sylvester on the horse in front of their house. Here is Marie Kuchara, Ina Kirchberger, Irene Alcorn, and Pauline Lembrick on the horse in front of the parsonage. Here is Leela Verl Dunagan's 8th grade diploma, given May 31st, 1924. Young women playing around at camp meeting in Gordon, Nebraska. Names on the picture are 1. Helen Rogers, 2. Mildred Martz, 3. Marie Martz, 4. Roland Martz, 5. Truth Richardson, 6. Esther McDaniels, 7. Ruth Gibeon, 8. Viva Johansson, 9. Garni Hegerman, 10. Merle Butson, 11. Doris Butson, and 12. Verl Dunagan. A picture of Dr. Andrew Johnson in 1924. A picture of Elmer Watkins, son of William James Watkins, older brother to Annie. He moved to San Jose, California in 1942 and raised his family there. He died in 1988 in Dayton, Washington State. Here are some friends holding down a car. Names on the back of the picture are Ernest Coleman, Howard and Michelle Hawthorne, Alice Lembrick, Ernest Hawthorne, Lois Van Buskirk, Mabel Hawthorne, Verl Dunagan. Sylvester evidently was planning to move to Indiana, probably for the education of his children, Roy and Verl. He sold something at auction in August of 1924 for $533.85 and bought land in Westfield Township, Hamilton County, Indiana. The land was at Northwest 618-4. Here is a map showing where Hamilton County is within Indiana. Here is a closer view of Hamilton County. Here is a map showing Noblesville within Hamilton County, Indiana. Here is a map showing the land 618-4 that Sylvester bought in Hamilton County. Here is a closer view of the land that Sylvester bought. On November 10, 1924, Sylvester paid taxes on his land at 618-4 of $6.45 through Mattie E. Rayler. On November 21st, Northwest Bank paid personal property tax in Sheridan County, that is Hay Springs, for Roy V. Dunagan and Ed Kirchberger of $3.66. Elmer Wayne Plunk and Hazel Aletta Pettit got married on February 14, 1925. Notice the flapper-style hat that Hazel is wearing. On April 22, 1925, W.J. Dwiggins paid land tax for property 6184 in Noblesville, Hamilton County, Indiana, of $6.23 on behalf of Sylvester Dunagan. On April 27, 1925, Frank Case paid land tax of $7.37 on 14740 in Chase County, Nebraska, for Sylvester. Here is a picture of some people in front of a house. They are probably Watkins. This was written on the back. Lily, Elsie, Bob, and Everett on our front porch. The hill behind the house is about a way. End quote. These may be Everett Watkins and Lily Watkins. Here is a picture of an unknown woman. Could she be Josephine Noreen Elwood Dunagan or Mildred Woodward? A glancing look from Leela Verl Dunagan. In June of 1925, the Nebraska Yearly Meeting of Friends said that Sylvester was on the Evangelistic and Church Extension Board with a term to expire in 1926, living in Peters, Nebraska. Peters was near Hay Springs, but is no longer on the map. Here is a picture of Alice Lembrick Kuchara. Evidently Alice married a Kuchara. Here are some buffalo grazing, probably north of Hay Springs. This is a picture labeled on the back with Martha, Ida Bowles, myself. I do not know who myself is. Roy Van and Josephine had another son on August 8, 1925. They named him Waldo Roy Dunagan. They came to call him Bud after a while. This was recorded in the Watkins family history book. This is a picture of Irene Van Vleck in Gordon, the camp meeting town, in 1925. On November 18th, Sylvester paid land tax of $6.23 for 6184 in Hamilton County, Indiana, for J.W. Dwiggins. On April 13, 1926, Sylvester paid land tax of $32.94 on 6184 in Hamilton County, Indiana. On April 16, 1926, Sylvester paid land tax of $49.28 on 23941 in Perkins County, Nebraska. Here is a picture of Simeon Smith, the son of the president of Union Bible College in Westfield, Indiana, in 1926. He looks kind of stately, don't you think? The Watkins brothers and sisters in 1926, approximately. Here is William Dunagan, Sylvester's younger brother. This is approximately 1926. This is Roy Van and his family in 1926. Well, more than his family. The young girl in front looks too old to be Roy's child. His only girl, Angela, was born after the boys. Maybe this girl was in the area when the picture was taken. The boys probably are Gerald and Waldo. Plans had been made to go to Westfield, Indiana for a while. It was clear from Sylvester's notes and letters that he had a lot of respect for Union Bible College and its president, William Smith. The school published a periodical called The Gospel Minister, which helped to make the school known. The school claims to provide education for churches who are part of the holiness movement. I recently wrote to a man at Union Bible College and asked him about the difference between the holiness movement and other church denominations. Here is a summary of what I learned from this. The holiness movement believes a person must have two spiritual experiences, one for being born again and another for being sanctified. This latter experience comes through a crisis experience and results in the spirit of rebelliousness or sinful nature being removed from us. Sin is defined as known violations of the law of God, as opposed to unknown or mental desires. They believe that a person once born again can later lose salvation and go to hell when he dies. They also emphasize modesty in dress. When school started at Union Bible College in August or September of 1926, the Sylvester Dunagan family was there. Here is a notebook that was evidently obtained about this time and was used over a long period of time to record important things. It starts out with outlines of courses that Leila Verl took at Union Bible College. The handwriting is Verl's. Here is the cover of the book. Here is the first page. In case you can't read that, this is what it says. Quote, Roman numeral 3. How long were the 6 days of the Genesis and reasons for why you think so? Roman numeral 4. Name 4 great errors refuted in Genesis 1. 5. In what way is the ark a type of Christ? 6. Name 2 parts of God's contract with Abraham and 2 of Abraham's, and the object. 7. Whom does seed of Abraham include? 8. In what way was Jacob a type of Israel? 9. 5 types of Christ in Jacob's life. 10. Give titles to CH. End quote. Here is a page from the Royal Notebook that has a date of February 4th. I assume that these notes were made for the time period December 30th, 1926 to December 14th, 1927, based on the dates that were written in various places in this outline. This is a picture of Naomi Tubbs taken August 16, 1926, on her 16th birthday. We had some other pictures of Naomi in Hay Springs. On October 9, 1926, Sylvester paid land tax on 618.4 in Hamilton County, Indiana. In 1927, Henry Ford started selling the Ford Model A car. This car was sold between 1927 and 1931. On January 28, 1927, Sylvester paid taxes on his land in Perkins County at 23,941. W. L. Dickens of Venango paid this for Sylvester. Here is a picture of students at Union Bible College about March 1927. Roy Van and Leila Verl are not in this picture. Maybe it was a different class. On April 16, 1927, Sylvester paid $26.14 in tax for the property in Hamilton County, Indiana, at 618-4. Here is a copy of Leela Verl's grades at Union Bible College for the term 1926-27. Here is a picture of Mr. and Mrs. George Kettle and L.E. Weibel in Bluffton, Indiana, in 1927. This picture is double exposed. This is what happens when the camera operator forgets to advance the film to the next unexposed section after taking a picture. Here is a picture of Gus, Winifred, and Pauline Lembrick, probably in Hay Springs, Nebraska, about 1927. These were the parents of the woman, Joyce Lembrick Alcorn, who gave me such good information about the people and activities in Hay Springs. Joyce still lives in Hay Springs, Nebraska, in 2016. Here is a picture of some Hopkins people in Nebraska. Sarah Hopkins, Fern Hopkins, Ella Hopkins, Myrtle, Melvin, Bert Hopkins, and Russell Hopkins. The date is a guess of 1927. Here is another picture of Naomi Tubbs. I am guessing that this picture was taken a little later than the previous one, so maybe March 1927, with some remaining snow. This may have been taken in Nebraska, as there is not information about Naomi going to Union Bible College in Indiana. Sylvia Dunagan, Lefevre's son, Bill, or William, and his wife, Jeanette, had a daughter on November 13, 1927. Her name was Betty Lefevre. She was born in Fullerton, Orange County, California. In the Royal Notebook for the date of February 27th, there were some topics listed for a class on Luke. For example, the first 4 topics were: for what class of Gentiles did Luke write? How did he present Jesus? Name the parents of John the Baptist. Why are there so many silent years in the life of Jesus? For March 1927, in the same notebook, some topics on missions were listed. Also in 1927, topics on Galatians, and finally on December 14, 1927, some topics concerning Israel were listed. In the U.S. in 1928, penicillin was invented by Alexander Fleming, and television broadcasting was started in Washington, D.C. At Union Bible College in March 1928, there was a fire. Here is what the history book says. Quote, early in March 1928, a fire broke out in the wood shingles of the older part of the seminary building. The students had a fire drill and went down the stairs to safety. The older boys of the high school and the young men of the seminary, along with neighbors, began bringing buckets of water to the top floor. The town fire department responded promptly with the chemical engine, and the fire was brought under control. What might have been a disastrous fire was averted. End quote. This is from the book Union Bible College and Academy, 100 Years. Sylvester started the year of 1928 off right by getting a bill for taxes on his land in Hamilton County, Indiana, at 618-4 for $10.26. On March 17th, he paid this bill. Here is a picture of Alvin O. Hinshaw and his family, taken April 1928. Alvin graduated from Union Bible College in 1916 and took over some of the responsibilities of the superintendent while the superintendent, William Smith, was resting from exhaustion. Sometime later, Alvin and family went to Bolivia to work in the mission that Union Bible College had established there through their previous graduates. This was written about Alvin in the Union Bible College history book. Quote, "In Bolivia, Alvin Hinshaw had made some long trips further interior in the country and saw a great need to preach the gospel in the northern and northeastern parts. One trip to these parts deepened his burden for these people. He felt the Lord leading him to move his family to live and work among them." End quote. On April 30th, 1928, Sylvester paid tax of $53.36 on his property in Perkins County, 23,941. Here is a picture of students at Union Bible College. Maybe these are all of the students in 1928. Leela Verl is in the picture. These names are listed on the back of the picture. Top row. Dorcas Tarr, Ada Yeomans, Hazel Kloss, Frances Cox, Ruth Alkire, Joe Hunt, Doris Yeomans, Huldah Smith, Olive Earl, Doris Conant, Merle Dick, Alice Earl, Marie Talbert, Ruth Patterson, Ferrell Dunagan, Esther Wilson. Bottom row. Wesley Cummins, Marion Conant, Robert Williams, Simeon Smith, Edwin Newby, and Ralph Earl. Sylvester paid tax again on his land in Hamilton County, Indiana, 618-4, of $10.26. This was paid on May 14, 1928. Leela Verl Dunagan graduated from Union Bible College in 1928. This was probably around May of 1928, since that is the usual end of the academic year. Here is the list of graduates for 1928. Here are Leela Verl's grades. Here is another picture of Union Bible College students. There are 7 students. Perhaps these are the students that graduated in 1928. The names of the graduates are Peter H. Bollinger, Leela Verl Dunagan, Ralph C. Enyart, Edward Parker Husselton, Lillian J. Narwald, Simeon Ophir Smith, and Dolores Ann Yeomans. Another picture with names on the picture. Leela Verl Dunagan is in the picture. Here is a picture of the Dunagan family except for Roy Van. It was probably taken in 1928 in Indiana, but nothing is written on this picture. At some time after graduation from Union Bible College, Sylvester and his family went back to Nebraska to live on their farm at 23,941. So how are things going back in Nebraska? Here is a picture of Annie and her brothers and sisters. Here is some information about things happening in Nebraska about this time. Eugene Conrad Watkins, born in 1923, wrote this about his recollections in the Watkins Family History book. Quote, Eugene's first recollections are of their farm, and despite his parents' hard work to make ends meet, the children did not feel poor or deprived, partly because everyone in the dryland farming community was in the same boat. He remembers the plague of army worms that covered the whole countryside and ate everything green in their path. The worms would crawl over the house in such numbers that light was blocked from the windows. Pant legs had to be tied around the ankles to keep them from getting inside clothing, and they created slick spots on the railroad rails so that the trains had difficulty getting traction. Grasshoppers got so bad that poison bran was provided by the county or state to the farmers in an effort to keep them under control. Gene recalls driving the wagon around the fields while his dad stood in the back and hand broadcast the bran. It had a sweet banana oil smell that he can immediately identify to this day. There were dust storms that would roll in like a tidal wave and block out the sun. His mother tore strips of cloth and pasted them around all the windows and openings in an effort to keep dust from gathering in piles in the house. It didn't work. The first tragedy of his life was associated with one of these terrible storms. Whenever a dust storm was expected or appeared, all the livestock was gathered in the corral or barn. On one occasion, his pony, a beautiful little pinto stallion, was left out and apparently sought shelter by an empty hayrack, which was blown over on him and broke his back. Gene's dad tried, with the help of a veterinarian, to suspend him from a sling in the garage. The storm was so bad and the pony struggled so hard that treatment was impossible. Gene can still remember the sound of the shot that ended the pony's suffering." End quote. Another note of interest in the Watkins family history book was written by Ruby Dickens Nichols, daughter of Gertie Hopkins Dickens. Ruby wrote about her mother's experiences in Nebraska. Ruby was born in 1920. She writes, quote, "We were living on Uncle Sib Dunagan's farm when Pearl, myself, and Curtis started to school. Owen Watkins also went to the same school." End quote. In 1928, Ruby would have been 8 years old, about the time for her to go to school. So when the Dunagans returned to their farm in Perkins County, they had company. Leila Verl wrote this about this time in their lives. She wrote this in the Watkins family history book. Quote, "Then in about 1927, they moved back to Venango, Nebraska, which they considered home. Sylvester had not sold all of his land and had some near Venango. It was located 2 miles west of the Greenfield Friends Church, southwest quarter 23941. Sylvester did some special preaching while they were there, and he used to preserve meat in his cellar, a skill he acquired while working for the slaughterhouse in Indiana. His income was from rent on his property. When Sylvester, Annie, and daughter, Verl, Roy was married by this time, returned to Venango in 1927, Annie was in good health. She is remembered by her family as a kind, quiet, and very gentle person. For example, when Annie would comb Leila Verl's hair when she was a child, Annie would be very gentle and be sure not to pull it." End quote.
there she is, that's what keeps me up at night. Oh gee whiz, that's why I can't eat a bite. Those flaming eyes, that flaming youth. Oh mister, oh sister, tell me the truth. Now ain't she sweet, see her coming down the street. I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Look her over once or twice. I ask you confidentially, ain't she nice? Cast an eye in her direction. Oh me, oh my, ain't that perfection? I repeat, don't you think that's kinda neat? I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet? Tell me where, have you seen one just like that? I declare, that sure is worth looking at. Oh boy, how sweet those lips must be. Oh, gaze on it, doggone it, answer me. Ain't she sweet, see her coming down the street. I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Look her over once or twice. I ask you confidentially, ain't she nice? Just cast a little light in her direction.